Hi, welcome to Jeremiah's birth story. Jeremiah is 1 year old as of yesterday. It's taken me quite a while to get this up, but I do have footage from that night via Snapchat. I had saved my Snapchat story. If you all remember, there was a huge eclipse that happened on the 21st of August, and I hauled Josiah up and down the apartment stairs, and I just kept getting a heavier and heavier feeling in my pelvic area. Like I feel like that kind of put my labor into motion. I don't know if that's true, but that's the day that I started to have contractions. At about 9 p.m., August 21st, I felt the contractions beginning. At 8 p.m., I was getting ready to take Josiah to sleep, my firstborn. He was 11 months old at the time. I was cleaning up his play area, and then I suddenly felt like this crazy feeling I did not feel with Josiah. And it was a very low, deep, heavy feeling. I just can't describe it. And I was like, something weird is happening. I remember telling Giovanni, and he was like, you about to do birth? And I was like, I don't know. It's just it's a feeling like I've never felt before. Not with my prior pregnancy or at any point during my pregnancy with Jeremiah did I feel that weird feeling that happened at 8 p.m. And then at 9 is when my contractions started. If you're here to try to compare what it feels like, you may not experience that, because I didn't with Josiah, but I don't know if that's because Josiah was my firstborn. I experienced a lot of prodromal labor with Jeremiah. Weeks prior, I was always afraid of going into labor because my contractions were consistent and timed for like 45 minutes or 3 hours, and then they would just drop off the face of the earth. But 9, when I was laying in bed, I was like, I'm starting to feel crampy, like I'm gonna get my period. And I always had really bad period cramps. They thought that I had endometriosis, and I was on my way to get checked out for that when I found out that I was pregnant with Josiah. They tell you not to eat when you're in labor because you may end up doing a C-section and don't tell me not to eat while I'm in labor. I'm gonna eat. That you're gonna vomit and choke on all the food, or I don't know what the heck. But they do a completely different type of C-section now anyway, but they still tell you not to eat when you're in labor, which I think is horse crap, because if you're laboring, you need energy to sustain the labor. It's possibly the best mango I've ever had. And I feel bad because Josiah usually shares with me. He's sleeping. Too bad for you. You missed out. My mom has been notified. And I would wander around the house, and sometimes I would try to go lay back down because I knew I had a big day ahead of me of no sleep. I lost track of timing my contractions because I've been up walking around eating. So I'm gonna go lay back down and do that. So when I finally realized that they were consistent enough and they were getting closer and I could not sleep anymore, it was about 5:30 in the morning. And well, I decided to get dressed. I'm walking around, and for the last hour they were about 5 minutes and 40 seconds apart, about a minute long. And now that I'm walking around, I get a short contraction, like 20-30 seconds long, every minute and a half. But I don't know if it's because I'm just walking around. So I think, but they just don't hurt. I mean, they hurt really bad, but not like I remember. So here comes another one. Confession, I bought some Depends underwear to wear in case my water breaks in the car. Also, postpartum, my friend and I were talking about it, and she had a really good idea, so I was like, shit, I'll just buy some Depends, because you bleed a lot, guys. I feel like for the 9 months you didn't have your period, postpartum, it just makes up for it all. Sorry, TMI, if you're a man. I don't know why you're still following me if you're a man. Well, maybe you're a mom man. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ooh, here comes another. I need to go wake up Giovanni. I don't want to wake him. I don't want to wake anybody. I want them to sleep. Sleep is so important in this house. But they're so sporadic now. Way less than 5 minutes apart, so I don't know what's going on because they're real short. Giovanni told me he wouldn't talk to me for weeks, and he wouldn't even take pictures if he knew I was walking around the house going through this without him, because he knows I'd do something like that, and I am doing something like that. So I'm gonna go honor my word and wake him up, even though I don't want to. So the last 15-20 minutes, they've been every 2 minutes, and they only last 48 seconds. They're really painful, but they're not as painful as I remember they were last time when I went in. But maybe my will to not scream is much stronger this time, because I don't want to scare Josiah. I don't want to wake him, you know? I don't really know what's going on. I believe in your prayers, and so many people are praying for me, and I just want to say thank you. I'm gonna cry. I'm sorry. Super hormonal right now, as you can imagine. So at 5:30 in the morning, I reluctantly went and grabbed my husband's foot, and I was like, so he shot up and he was like, it's time. He immediately got out of bed, loaded the car. We lived like a block, 2 blocks away from the hospital at the time. So I was wandering around the house, getting the diaper bag ready for Josiah with snacks and things. And then he picked up Josiah, who was asleep. My mom was meeting us at the hospital, and I made my way down the apartment stairs into the car, and at that point my contractions were so close together and so painful that I couldn't sit down in the car like a normal person. I turned to face the backrest and I was kind of hugging the headrest. I was on my knees and I was kind of looking at Josiah in the car seat and telling him it was going to be okay. And I was trying to keep my composure as much as possible because I didn't want to scare Josiah. And with my birth with Josiah, my distraction was like, you kind of find what you can focus in on. And for me with Josiah, it was looking my husband in the eyes. I needed eye contact. If you watch that birth story, I'll link it in the description box below. But I could not look at his eyes. I needed to look into my husband's eyes. That was just what I needed. For this birth, I was sort of I internalized things because I was trying to not affect my 11-month-old because I didn't want him to see me like that, because it is a little scary for an 11-month-old. He's like, what is mom doing, you know? So I sort of internalized things, and my eyes just started saying relax, and my key word was relax, and I still can't hear the word or say the word myself without thinking of giving birth to Jeremiah, because each contraction I would say relax, 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 and I would just, like, in a really weird, it probably sounded crazy, but I would just use that word and say it to remind myself to relax and to breathe. And that was like my key word for myself then, as I would say relax. I would tell myself to relax. So we got to the hospital and checked in, and when I checked in, I was like, my midwife is so and so. I started labor about 8 or 9 last night. For me, when I had Josiah, I waited a little bit longer because my contractions never really got to a minute long. So they were like 48 seconds, 50 seconds. Sometimes they went to a minute, and I was like, well, it's not a minute. I shouldn't go in. It's not a minute yet. But I was, your body's always, a little bit different. So my contractions just never got to a minute. So you just kind of have to know yourself, right? And this last time, I did wait until they were 2 minutes apart. So when I got to the hospital, I was 8 centimeters, but she said my cervix was really soft, that it didn't necessarily mean anything. 8 or 10 or whatever, the cervix was so soft that if I pushed, baby would come out. So when I came to the birthing center. Sorry, these snaps are all dragged out because I'm tired. They started asking me, when did your contraction start this morning? And then I had another contraction right then and there. So between her asking me, my contractions had started to become about a minute and a half apart. So she was initially going to send me to the exam room to make sure I was a certain amount of centimeters before they put me in a suite. But she looked at some gal by her side and she was like, just put her in room 9, I think I was in, because they could tell that I was definitely not messing around. It was go time. When I got to suite 9, they told me to lay down in the bed. They didn't want me standing because they were afraid that there was nobody there to catch, is what they've been calling it, catch the baby. They wanted a doctor, a midwife, an OB, somebody, but there was nobody there to catch. And I was like, I don't need anybody special. Anybody can catch. I just want this kid out of me now. So they were literally trying to keep the baby in. But I ended up, we got here at 6 a.m. and Jeremiah was born at 7:35, I think it was. So it was an hour and a half, because they had me laying in bed, and I kept telling them, I don't want to be in this bed. I do not want to be in this bed. And as soon as I stood up, Giovanni held me, and I was rocking my hips back and forth. That's when I instantly felt the urge to push. I didn't have it in the bed. I was laboring in the bed on my back, so that they could put that stupid band around me and feel or listen for his heartbeat. My husband just sent me a picture. Hold on. My midwife showed up and I was like, what can I do to get this kid out of me as fast as possible? Because I am so tired of being in pain. Like, I was over it. And so she suggested I was on my hands and knees at that point on the bed for a little while. And then she said I could stand up if I wasn't too tired. And I was like, hell no, I'm not too tired. I will stand. And when I stood is when I had the contraction that made me feel like I had the need to push. So I labored there standing maybe 3-4 contractions. Maybe more than that. I don't really remember, honestly. And then I was fully dilated to a 10. And I was like, why is honeydew never ripe? Crunchy ass honeydew. So then the discussion came up about, because my water wasn't broken, when you take a lot of vitamin C, which I was, because that helps with testing GBS negative, a lot of time your baby's born in the coal, which means the water doesn't break at all. So that was kind of, I was ready to push him out. He just wasn't coming out because the water hadn't broken. So she was asking me if I wanted her to sweep my membranes, break my water, and I really didn't, because the things I read about that, I was really hesitant. But so I got into the bed for her to check my cervix and assess the situation, because I was really contemplating, because I just really wanted the baby out now. I was so done. And when she checked my cervix, she was like, wow, it's go time. If you want to push, this baby's gonna come out if you push. So I was like, okay. And I went to push, and it hurt so bad. Way worse than Josiah. And I don't know if it's because the contractions with Josiah were so bad that pushing felt like nothing. But this time, and Jeremiah was almost 2 pounds lighter, 2 inches shorter. So I don't know why pushing him, it hurts so bad. That is the one and only time that I screamed bloody murder. My mom could hear me outside. She took Josiah around the corner so he wasn't terrified. I screamed. My throat is raw. I had Italian ice earlier, lemon Italian ice, to try to help my throat. But when I had felt that pain, I looked at my midwife and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I want him out. Get him out. I want him out as fast as possible. What can I do? This needs to end. And she was like, the only way to get him out is to push him out. So I remember thinking in my head, I was like, if I want him out right now, I have got to get him out right now. Otherwise, he's going to stay in there forever. I'm going to feel this forever. I don't want to feel this forever. So in my mind, I was telling myself, get him out now. And so I was like, and I screamed my head off, and he came out. It wasn't even 2 minutes of pushing. It was like the first initial push, and then I was like, gosh, that hurts, holy shit. And then the second one, when I was just like, it is go time, get him out now. And I just pushed him out, and he came out so fast that he was crying, like scream crying, and I think he has a little bit of a bruise on his forehead, because I shot that kid out like a daggone cannonball, because I wanted him out so bad. And that shit hurt. I was like, whoa. I just got so fired up, because I was just like, I was tired of being pregnant. Been pregnant for 2 years straight. I was tired of the contractions. I was tired of the pain. I was tired. I just needed it to end. So I took everything I had, and I didn't care about the pain, and I gave it everything, and it hurt. After I realized what I had done to myself, I was like, oh gosh, that's terrible. And then I looked at my husband. Oh my God, I love him so much. I couldn't have done it without him. The only reason I'm able to go through labor without meds is because of Giovanni. Like, in my case anyway, you need somebody couldn't do it by myself. Whew, postpartum hormonal feelings here. So I looked at him and he was like, "It's over, Ma." And I was just like, ah. Because for months I have feared this labor because of the pain. I've had so much anxiety and worry. It's just been building up so much, and he was like, "It's over." For those of you that don't know, I was stuck behind my pelvic bone for 7 hours, and if I was in a different hospital, I'm certain I would have had a C-section with Josiah. But the labor team at the hospital I deliver at is so amazing. They had me on all fours, like twisting my entire upper body, but my knees were straight, and each contraction, and I used all these different positions to get Josiah to turn around. He wasn't breech, he was OP, occiput posterior. I forget all these terms already. So his face was facing the wrong way. He just needed to do a 180, if that makes sense. So they were trying to get him to do the 180 so that his head could dip under my pelvic bone and he could be birthed. So that was the situation with Josiah. But Josiah's birth was 22 hours, Jeremiah's was 11 hours, and I labored at home for majority of the time with both. With Josiah, it was 14 hours, and with Jeremiah, it was from 8 or 9-ish p.m. till 5 in the morning. So 8 hours at home, 8.5, 9 hours at home. The blood loss was pretty bad both times with them. So then I have some footage from Snapchat again of what it was like after birth, because I'm not allowed to go pee without somebody watching me. And I think it's because of my blood loss. Again, I know. I'll tell you guys later. But he latches for 2 hours at a time. So I'm tired. I haven't slept. But that's okay. That's what being a mom is, So I just want to say thank you. And we're here 24 hours. That's okay too. I told my sister that people that get epidurals are very smart. I don't know why I do it this way. I mean, I know why I do it this way, but when you're in the moment, you're like, why do I hate epidurals? Because you're just, I never want to go through that again. But God willing, I will. And there is nothing wrong with an epidural, by the way, at all. I don't judge you. In fact, I admire you, because that's got to be super nice. And epidurals don't always work. And that needle hurts initially, I've heard. And sometimes you can still feel everything on half your body, So no matter which way your babe came into this world, it's hard. Kudos to birth givers. There is no way that is more superior than the other. The best way is the safest way, for however that is for you. Because Giovanni went home with Josiah, because Josiah had been up since 5. He pulled him out of bed. So he took him home for a nap. So I was kind of in the hospital by myself for the 24 hours because he had to take care of Josiah. And we didn't want Josiah to get sick, which happened. Josiah caught that
hospital AIDS.
Josiah caught that stomach bug that made him throw up. Jeremiah was 3 days old. No, 2 days old. We'd been home for 24 hours, so he was almost 3 days old when Josiah just threw up all over his head. And then I was terrified because, I didn't know if my newborn was...
times.
Like Josiah, okay, he's almost a year old, like he'd be alright, but a brand new baby getting that kind of virus. But thank God we prayed so hard that Jeremiah didn't catch it, and we all did. We got violently ill. He threw up in the lactation consultant's office. He got the stomach bug really bad. It was a interesting first week.
I lost 12 pounds in 2 days.
It was so bad. And then that's the first time Josiah had ever been sick, so then I was terrified by that. So I was home with a newborn and a sick husband and a sick baby trying to recover from birth. Like, it was the hardest week
Birth is
of
so
my
beautiful.
life. Birth is so beautiful. It was the hardest week of life for me, for sure. Jeremiah was night and day. Josiah just wanted to sleep all the time, which was cool, and I had to kind of wake him up to nurse him, but Jeremiah latched and would not let go of me, and that was really hard. Remember? It'd been like a month, and you were so...
All I can do is eat.
Yeah, he was so concerned. He felt so bad because I would be crying at 2 a.m, just awake, crying from pure exhaustion because Jeremiah would not leave me alone. And he wouldn't take a pacifier until he was... Like, I forced a pacifier because he did at times just want to suckle. Like, Jeremiah wanted nothing more than to just be latched, and I couldn't do it. That was mentally challenging for sure. But anyway, those are the differences between the boys after birth. Dinner is served. They're doing construction. There was a lot of babies born. It's just been really chaotic and they're short staffed, so I keep getting neglected. They're supposed to give me something for my really bad cramps. And I wanted a heat pack for my stomach because it just hurts. And they're supposed to bring me... What are they supposed to bring me? I did take a shower though, and I put my nursing gown on. And I finally got them to take out my IV. They wouldn't take it out until tonight because of my blood loss. And Giovanni gave Jeremiah his first bath. We got pictures of that. It's very cute. But I'm about to eat this food. Oh dear, I should have said gravy on the side. It's their roast beef, mashed potato, corn special. Gross. My second most asked question. This is my nursing gown, by the way. I'm out of the hospital gown. I got my little robe. My second most asked question was, because I didn't want to go to the hospital too soon, how do I know when to go? Well, your pediatrician will tell, not pediatrician, what is it called? OB or midwife, whoever you see, will tell you. You know, that's a good question to ask them, but I've always heard my midwife say, and I've read, the 511 rule or the 411 rule, depending on who you ask. When you're contracting every 5 minutes, the contractions last at least 1 minute for 1 hour, then that's when you should come in. So 511 or 411. I think it's easier to remember 411. So every 4 minutes, your contractions last 1 minute long, and that goes on for an hour. 411. That's when they say to come. There's a little baby right there. A little snuggled up little baby. Nice and cozy. I finally put him down. I've been holding him this whole time because I'm supposed to try to sleep, but I can't. You know, anxiety. How do you sleep when the thing that you've carried for 9 months is literally not on you anymore? My snacks are here. So I was staring up at him and he was like, "It's over, Ma." And then he was like, "Look at your son." And I looked down at him. People wonder why. Why do you want to have labor naturally? And there's several reasons. You can read about epidurals and you can make the argument about whether it's good for baby or not. But really, the feeling you get, you're ambushed with adrenaline, oxytocin, you're just slammed with all of these endorphins and these hormones, and you're flooded with feeling like nothing can describe what you feel after you did it. You did it. So after it's all said and done, and it's literally the absolute hardest thing you've ever done, mentally, physically, when it's over, you feel kind of untouchable. Like all of these challenges in your life, you're like, I got this. It changes who you are because you did what so many people couldn't. You did what you thought you couldn't. You did what your family thought you couldn't do. And it, more or less, it was about my own hang-ups because nobody really doubted me, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure people did on the internet that didn't know me, but so many people believed in me and prayed for me. But it was my own, especially this time, self-doubt that this baby has been nursing for 2 hours. It's 2 hours every time, and when I try to be like, okay, are you done? He gets so upset. And this happened to me last time. I get really bad spasms in my upper back, and the lactation consultant and everybody is like, bring the baby to you, don't lean into the baby. But I don't know why I always manage to just hunch over. It kills me. Are you a hungry boy? And the nurse is impressed with how little weight he has lost. He's kept up his weight well, which pleases me because he was born 6 pounds 14 ounces, and I know that's not small, but I mean it is to me. I like real fat babes in case they do lose weight. Like Josiah lost quite a lot of weight, but he was 8 pounds 11.1 ounces. I was awake with Josiah for 3 or 4 days, a long time. I started to dream while I was awake. I was losing my mind until my mom came and was like, listen, I'm gonna take him, because my anxiety just wouldn't, I couldn't sleep. I had to look at him, I had to watch him breathe. It was just so bad. So my mom held him while I slept because Giovanni was in school. I just wasn't sleeping. My uterus, my cramps are so bad. I think it's because he nurses so long. Oh, honey, you still hungry? Okay. So during the anatomy scan, 20 weeks, they thought they saw a V, starts with a V, something, in his heart, like a hole in his heart, like a murmur. I was born with a murmur. I know people in my husband's family have murmurs. So they did a rescan, but he was so curled up that they couldn't really see all that well. But they thought that it wasn't there after all. But listening to his heart upon arrival, he definitely still has a murmur. And they can close up or heal up or whatever you want to call it within 24 hours. So this morning, here in a couple hours, they're gonna listen for it, and if it's still there, they have to do an echocardiogram to see where to go from there. So prayers that it's really no big deal. I would appreciate that. It's typically not. I mean, I had a murmur, so. And Josiah never cried until his first leap at like 5 weeks old. He cried once, and we were like, what the heck is that? But Jeremiah boy, he cries if he is not pleased with something. Their personalities are so different. It's so fun to see it already, how different they are. He's finally asleep. He nursed for 2.5 hours. So he doesn't like the glass case next to the bed. I don't blame you, bud. I wouldn't either. He's just wide awake as crap. Awake. This kid, I'm comparing him to my first, and I shouldn't do that because they're all different, but you're so alert, Jeremiah. Baby. So I have these little tiny cups behind me so that I can express colostrum. I dumped it by mistake, but she came to give me my medicine. They give you painkillers, stool softener, something else, I don't remember what, but she grabbed one of the cups that I was using to express my colostrum, and she dumped all the pills in there and handed it to me, and I was like, okay, all right, I guess we're doing that then. Josiah's tearing up the house, per usual. I'm loving it. We're home. I'm walking around nursing Jeremiah. Where are you going? So I'm just walking around the house. And Dad's in the shower. You need a diaper change, huh? Because I kind of showered in the hospital, but Giovanni never got to. He's just been... Found the ice water. He loves ice water. Baby, you need to drink milk. Don't fill up on that. Unless I need to make him milk. Look what you found.
What? Oh, you didn't.
You need nutrients, baby, not water. Okay? See, look at you.
Give him some
So
breakfast.
while I wish I would have had footage of the birth, it just was so hard with Josiah there, and the pain that I was in. The last thing I thought about was picking up my camera. But I dream of a birth one day to be documented, because that's how I keep my memories, is instead of in a diary, I do it with video. Thank you for watching Jeremiah's birth story. I hope to see you guys soon, probably with another sit-down video, because I need to talk to you guys about some stuff. And I will see you then.